Got it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Why does it look like an angel entered my room? Why
It's
is
so
the-
nice.
It's so bright.
An
Okay,
angel
so-
visited your room.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm Asleys. I use now no longer she, they, she. So I'm gonna change that as everyone else does their introductions.
Siri, I also use she, they pronouns.
I'm Sophia. I use she, her.
Tori, she, her.
Okay, so for first 10 minutes of this, I'm gonna start a timer for the video, but for the first 10 minutes, we need to discuss the mirror effect and what the reading meant by that, just so we understand the general basics of it. I'm gonna let someone else take over. I was very confused for a while about this reading.
I know that this guy, how to pronounce his name, Lacan.
Lacan, yeah.
Lacan started with how we as toddlers can easily recognize ourselves in the mirror than other species, but we cannot do much physically.
Yeah.
Like other species can do a lot of things physically when they were born, but we cannot. However, we have a more active mind, I guess. When we recognize ourselves in the mirror, something happened during the point when we recognize ourselves and recognize like I have to say, how do you say, like identifies ourselves apart from the world?
Yeah.
That's when the magic happened, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess that moment when you are a toddler and you first look in the mirror and you're like, wait a second, is that me?
Is that me?
Yeah, you, like you were saying, you kind of start to break up your outlook of the world into parts, and when you look into the mirror, you see yourself, but you see like a more whole version of yourself, and you start to see yourself as lacking something, and that's when you start to have these desires and things that you want in life, because you see in the mirror this perfect version of yourself that has everything that you don't. And yeah, and that can sort of translate into cinema. So let's take over.
Yeah. Wasn't it, I think we discussed it mainly in class, but it's the main thing that separates us, what makes human people human.
Yes.
From what I remember is the fact that we can understand and recognize that that's ourselves.
And other animals, such as what it says in the article, pigeons, sees other other pigeons as just other pigeons, including their own reflection in the mirror as, okay, this is some other pigeons. Which I think a lot of other animals do that. When you put the mirror in front of them, they just believe that this is another
animal
in front of them. But you cannot get to it because there's a mirror. I mean, a glass or something blocking them.
My dad had a dog, a small dog. She would see her reflection in a unlit fireplace. And then every time she saw it, she would turn and go, she would just start barking at it hysterically. My dad would go, that's you. And she just wouldn't stop.
Yeah, you try to tell a dog that this is a mirror. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, they won't get it.
Nope.
Yeah, that's like the basics of the mirror effect from what I would say. I mean, I think that I'm still a bit confused by it, but at the same time, I think I get it a bit more.
I tried looking at some more outside sources to try to get a better feel. And there were a couple rather interesting things I found, like not remembering the name of the sources off the top of my head, but someone said it can be used for control. And I'm like, what?
Well, I can definitely see that for it to
I have
be
a
used
creepy experience with mirrors myself, because when I was younger, I was like 10, and there was like this really big mirror, and I just stood there and I just stared at it for like 10 minutes until someone walked in and they found me like shaking in space. They're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is reality. Like I was having an existential crisis because I was staring at my own reflection.
This is something like I feel like people have when you stare at something for like longer time period, you start to not recognize that thing. it doesn't matter if it's like a word, a letter, or like a painting, or your own reflection in the mirror. You start to like, oh my god, that
Watch
looks
on
a little
Zoom.
bit unfamiliar. That looks a little bit creepy because it's you, but you start think that's like, is that you though? Are you sure that's you?
I think for me, one of the things that I think in terms of control for that is it's like your own reflection. So for me right now, I don't know if any of you guys are doing the same thing, but I am only staring at myself in this Zoom meeting because I feel like your reflection just controls you the entire time. Like you need to look at yourself. It's kind of grounding. I just get to see what I look like. Not to, you guys all look great, beautiful, but like I can't not stare at myself.
I look at the 4 mostly just like to see faces because like it gives me like some form of satisfaction, like seeing other people as I talk to them. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's like if I hear like noise that like draws my attention, but for me, I'm in control by my own reflection because I feel like it is the idea of like the ideal situation. I want to see how I'm acting and what I look like when I say certain things so I can like see what the ideal should be, point out flaw, you know.
Yeah.
Yada yada.
I don't
yada.
just
I like about the
I
4
don't just
box
see
mode.
myself like I don't really just see myself like interacting with people. I don't know what my kind of natural state of existing is. So when I'm watching myself in Zoom, it's just I'm drawn to myself just analyzing everything, like you were saying, like picking out what are the things that I just naturally do.
Yeah. What do I look like in this moment? Is this what I always look like in this moment? Oh God,
Yeah.
is this what people see me look like? This is the only
Yeah.
way I can see me.
Fun
Which is
fact,
Interesting.
I actually had to study my own facial expressions when I was younger. So
Mm.
yeah.
Why?
Yeah, right.
Autism screening.
Oh, okay. Was that's something we need to discuss later because I had a horrible habit growing up where I like just like stared at myself in the mirror all the time, and I don't know if that's
The mirror effect.
it is the
It's
mirror
coming
effect.
for you.
It always has. Genuinely, if I'm having a conversation with someone, my friend pointed out the other day, we were having a serious conversation, a window was right there and I could see my reflection. I was staring at my reflection the entire time. And I was like,
is.
I'm
Done
sorry,
that.
I just can't not.
I feel like that's like a us as human thing. We all do that.
Yeah.
We're in some kind of way a very narcissistic species, and
That's
and
very
we
true,
we
yeah.
like to look at ourselves, and we like to just we like to keep having the feeling of me as myself and others as others. We have to keep having this reminding, kind of like a reminder of ourselves. This is me. This is the ideal
Mhm.
I, and that is you. We're different. I am my unique self, and you're your unique self. Which I don't know. It's something that only we human do that. I feel like.
Yeah.
Very true.
So we've spent a good 10 minutes talking about
That's
the
10
mirror
minutes.
effect. Yeah, it's been about 8 minutes, 8
Oh,
to 10
that's
minutes.
great. I don't know if we can stretch to 10 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're not like summary wise, we can stretch to 10 minutes, but I mean, like we find a bunch of
Yeah.
other things that could be plausible to like talk about in theory of like the mirror effect and so on and so forth. There's a lot that I think should be said about the mirror effect in different ways in society.
I have one additional thing that I found in one of my outside sources that was actually extremely dark. It was one of the first things that came up. It said something about increased suicide risk. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was something I thought of when I looked through the article and stuff like that, and I was thinking about the mirror effect and the sense of control. I thought about like eating disorders and shit like that. Oh, sorry, Hugh. But I thought of like eating disorders and things like that, and how
It's kind of inevitable with a mirror, you know.
Yeah, it's the idea that it's like you are projected this ideal self and you're not living up to it in your head. And so when you see yourself in the mirror, it's like I need to go into what I see myself as in my head, what I know I can be based on that. And the mirror controls you in that sense. So it's like just thought that was interesting, and that I think a lot can be said in that area
Mhm.
It was
Also in the movie, maybe
in
like
the movie.
yeah, how she have all this form of arts with her just naked
Yeah,
yeah.
I
and
thought that was so cool.
clashing into a wall or
Yeah.
just carving something on.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of, I don't know how to say about this. That makes me feel a little bit like
Uneasy.
uneasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're looking at this person harming themselves, and for some reason it kind of relates a little bit,
Yeah.
even though it doesn't, but it does in
I think
kind
it
of
does.
way.
I agree. I think it does in a sense where it's just like you're watching someone harm themselves for art's sake and do that thing. And I feel like it's much more, I mean, as an artist, as someone who is a creative, I harm myself for my art in a lot of ways mentally. And so it's like, I feel like that effect of harming her body within her art, I was just like, that's horrifying to watch. And then I'm like, well, at the same time, a lot of artists put themselves through horribly drastic mental strain in order to create something beautiful because of the stupid ideal that you have to be in pain to create art.
Yeah, I feel that
Very true.
as
Sorry.
no problem. So like those of you that don't know, I'm a trained vocalist of many years, and I record things for reference a lot, and I just every time I sing, even if I'm just singing for fun, I have this sense of you were so flat on that note, you were so sharp on that note, do it again until you get it right. And if I'm just singing for fun, and sometimes when I'm like recording a song and if there's like a really high note, I will not stop until I get that note correct. So I'm kind of at risk of like hurting my vocal cords, but I'm like, this is gonna be worth it in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something she said. What's her name again?
Marie.
Marina.
Marina.
Yeah, Marina.
She said as like a artist, she have to truly get a knife and blood in order to perform art. If you get a fake knife and some ketchup, that's acting. I'm I'm an actor, so I kind of relate in that way, but I feel like that takes a lot of courage to actually carve something on your body as an
Yeah.
artist.
Mhm.
Where I cannot do. I don't know if I can do that. I don't see myself doing that.
Yeah.
But as an artist, sometimes you will have to kind of just thinking that you as an actor, you have to think that you are going through that without actually going through that.
And here's the thing, I also speak as an actor, is it's like people will put themselves and their bodies, maybe not through like cutting their bodies up and throwing themselves into a wall, but like for certain roles, people will lose or gain drastic amounts of weight or modify their bodies in certain ways that put them through
Yeah.
harm and
I
put them
heard
through
that
mental strain.
For Les Mis, Anne Hathaway lost like 25 pounds or something.
Yeah. Well, and also for the Les Mis movie, freaking Hugh Jackman wasn't allowed to drink water because of Hollywood ideals,
Yikes.
which relates back to the mirror effect in my brain because it's the ideal person that is being projected that you reflect back on and things like that.
Yeah.
In Hollywood, you're not, there's a lot of dehydration for male actors specifically, so their muscles can get
Yeah.
and so it's just like Marvel movies and stuff like that. It's horrifying.
Yeah. And actually,
Absolutely.
one last thing about plays, maybe. So one time in a play I was in, I had to jump over a box. And one time when we were rehearsing it, I busted my kneecap open. And
Mhm.
so I was like, ah, on the stage in front of everyone.
So
Yeah.
there's something that you have to put yourself through a different person's ideal self when
Yeah.
you're an actor. You have to think about not yourself, someone else, and kind of like going through so-called the mirror stage again, slightly again, as someone else while you're thinking through their backstory, the character's backstory, and you're going through the character's mirror stage with them, so that you can perform as that character as the best that you can perform them, if that make any sense at all. Anyway, so the movie, back to the movie.
Yeah.
We're getting sidetracked.
Yeah, no, I think what I was going to bring up in the movie, I couldn't understand how it related to them. Like, I understand how it relates to the effect. Do you guys remember the point in the movie where they were going over Ule and her relationship and the art that they make, and blah blah blah, and they were just slapping each other, that one piece of art? Just like, it was very interesting to me watching it, mainly because it was like I could not see a reflection of myself in the other in that instance. I didn't understand it, and I wondered if that came from me as like a queer person. But seeing the effects, like, to a male and a female slap each other all the time, being like, we've uncovered the relationship between masculine and feminine people, I was like, I don't get that. I don't see any of this reflected in me. And that made me think, with the mirror effect, is, does that change depending on race, disability, gender, sexuality, and stuff like that? That's a question
really
I pose for everyone.
Yeah, I also found a lot of her work. I was like trying to find in myself what people were seeing in these things. And like you were saying, like, I'm a queer person and I was raised by two lesbians, so I never really had this idea of like the traditional straight relationship, whatever, that people find very difficult to sort of get out of, and like get out of this ideal, since they were like raised with this ideal. Anyway, so when I was watching these, like the two of them together, I didn't understand like what was trying to be conveyed and what people were finding out of it.
Yeah. And what is supposed to be like, how am I supposed to relate based on like my ideals in my head are going to be completely different based on my, like, where I was and how who I am as a human being. So it's just like, I wonder if the mirror effect is subjective, and things like that.
That's very interesting. I definitely think it is.
Yeah, some of her art's just a little bit, I don't know. Arts cannot be like, you cannot connect to every people. It's not what everyone likes, and people gets different feelings from different art. So her arts, you said the slapping each other, you don't understand.
I don't get it.
I do not understand her just whipping herself on the back.
I really didn't get that.
And
I didn't
any
get it.
sort of self-harm. Anyway, I don't get it. I mean, maybe she, from her past family experience, she says she's like raised in a very strict military-ish family. And she just want to break free. That's a lot of her suppressed emotion. I don't have a lot of suppressed emotion, so I don't have the same feeling as what she had.
Excuse me. Thank you. Yeah, that's the thing, is I do think that a lot of her own experience relates back to like trying to break out of the image that was created in her mind, and what she what she sees in the mirror in Lacan's idea. I feel like she wants to portray on her body what she thinks over what she is seeing in the mirror.
And I feel like that's true for not just for us, for most of people around the world. That's why I don't know if those are the two more famous art pieces that I'm talking about when I say famous is you don't know her, but you know the art pieces. Is that she put a lot of tools on the side and you can do whatever to her. That's
Yeah.
one. And the other one is sitting across each other and staring to each other. That's the two. Basically, if you don't know her, you might know the art.
Mhm.
I feel like that's the two art forms that everyone relates to more. They can understand more than
Yeah.
the rest of her pieces. For example, you have to squeeze through the two naked person, or you just
Yeah.
sitting
Yeah.
on a bicycle chair naked.
Yeah. Some of the art I did not get. I think a lot of the art I loved of hers was, of course, which is so sad because their relationship I heard was not the best, was Ule and Marina's. Because that entire moment in The Artist is Present where he shows up to the table, I like lost my mind. I sobbed. It was horrifying. I just love that art. I think it's so interesting. The art that she does to her own body is interesting in a concept. It's just not fun for me to watch.
Yeah,
Same.
it's very disturbing. I don't think it's supposed to be fun. It's
Yeah.
just very disturbing. And I kind of just feel like no wonder they didn't end up together. If they're doing all these kind of things to each other. I'm not as extreme. I don't know. I just don't have a mindset of an artist. I feel like no wonder they're not together. That's like good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll jump into my moment from the film because it also ties into the subjectivity of art and with the artist is present. Towards the end of the film, there was a woman who sat down and just stripped, took all of her clothes off, and then was escorted out. And she had said her reasoning was because Marina is so vulnerable, putting herself in this position. I wanted to be as vulnerable as she was, and I was sort of thinking that was not at all my takeaway from it, which I guess sort of ties into the subjectivity, but also Marina had said it was that she's sort of this mirror that people see themselves in when she's sitting in that chair, staring into people's eyes. And I feel like it could have been the mirror effect could have made this woman sort of, before she even sat down and looked Marina in the eyes, she saw herself in her and she saw what she was lacking was vulnerability. And so she kind of took that as the opportunity to take a step in what she thought was the right direction by stripping for her, which clearly was not what everyone's takeaway was from it, because she was quickly escorted out, which I was kind of surprised that they made her leave, but I don't know.
Yeah, that is. I'm trying to collect my thoughts on it because I don't really know.
There's a other clip in before she meet. I think that's her. She's sitting outside of the museum trying to get in. Is that her? She's like, Marina really inspired me to do more like art. And I mean, people really get inspired by her to just, do things, express themselves, which is nice. But
sort of a combination of that expression of themselves and the control that we were talking about earlier. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you didn't. I don't really have anything else to say anyway. You mean she got escorted out, which is sad for her because she really wants to get the experience, and she was only there for like a second.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Weird moment.
And I don't know if this is done on purpose. Before she stripped, there's a clip of the security guy says no any major thing when talking to someone. I think another guest. She's like, you cannot do any extreme posture, anything that will harm her or anything that will make us think that you're going to do something. And then she came in and stripped. So and she
Mhm.
after she left,
forgot
she's
about
like,
that.
I don't know that wasn't allowed.
Yeah.
I mean, she totally know that wasn't allowed,
She
but good for
definitely-
her.
Yeah.
She knows. She
Okay.
just Mm,
I'm giving a time checkup just because I just checked it. We have like 5 minutes.
cool.
So, if we want to move on to the next
generally-
art piece.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Anyone else haven't spoke? Tori?
Yeah,
Well,
Tori, I don't think you've given a art or a moment in the movie yet.
Because it's a lot of interesting things, and like I really agree with what everything else has been said. That like, just the whole idea of like, just the whole idea of like what she puts herself through for art. It's something I can, like I've mentioned before, it's something I can very much relate to. And I was gonna come back to Siri's idea of like why she harms herself, like coming back to the idea of coming from a strict household and things. That is something that I hold near and dear to my heart because I've been through a lot of debilitating things mentally, verbally, and art and music and acting, especially for me, it was my only escape. So I feel like despite the extremities she goes through, I see a lot of myself in her, and she does inspire me quite a bit.
Yeah. She's definitely a very sad soul. And I
Mhm.
like the way that the way that she reflects it, pun intended, within her art. I think it's very, very
Yeah.
soul bearing, the way
She's
that her
very
performance art
brave.
works. Yeah.
I feel like for me, I don't know, my family has been very nice to me. I haven't been through a lot of like harsh experience or bad things, but I just feel like for me it's I love to act, and I do theater arts just because I want to try different lifestyles.
Mhm.
And that's kind of reflect to my own mentality. If I go through that, I will try to escape and go into other people's mind and try whatever other people think, and escape from being myself a little bit. That's why I do acting.
Yes.
For her, she's like, I want to use myself as a tool to express all this hurting myself, by putting myself through all this to reflect, to say whatever she wanted to
Yeah.
say. For
Mhm.
me, it's like, no, I don't want to be myself anymore. I want to be someone else.
Yeah.
She's like,
Mhm.
yes, I want to be myself, and I want to use myself. I want to express as myself, by
Which is so
like
interesting.
literally myself, without any clothing or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She was a very interesting artist.
She
I
is.
think.
She's
Sure.
extremely.
I feel like performance art is one of those art forms that I think is the same as like modern art, where it's like people will either you hate it or you love it. Hate modern art, love performance art. Think it's really, really interesting.
she's 75.
What?
Wow.
She's 75?
Yeah, I just googled it. She's
Wow.
75.
Wow,
When did that movie come out?
that's wow. She's
Wow.
like my grandma's age.
She's
Your
a year
grandma's
younger than
75.
my abuelito. So
You guys, very. Your grandmother's only 75. How? My grandmother's like 80, like 87, 88.
how old
My
was she?
grandmother is
Dang.
How
only
old were they when
70
they had
something.
your parents, though?
No clue. No clue. I don't
Oh.
even want to think about that.
So yeah, yeah.
I want to
Alright.
think about my grandpa. No.
I just, yeah,
All right. So
great artist. Great artist.
you
Art
guys
of
good to wrap up or something?
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we have like a minute and 30 left, but we started recording before we started discussing, so I think we're all good.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna go throw myself into a wall.
I feel you.
I'll record it, make art out of it. You guys, I'm sure it'll be amazing.
Yeah.
I'll dedicate it to you.
Did you hear that by any chance?
Hear what?
Because I cracked my neck and it was really close to the mic.
No, I
Okay.
did not hear that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys.
See you guys.
Out.